First, we're going to deal with how to fix your flat. To successfully remove your wheel so that you can get it back on easily is to shift your gears so your chain's down into the smallest cog. Now you're going to go ahead and remove your wheel. Now we're going to open our quick release lever. Flip that to the open position. Lift up on the back of the bike, kind of hold the wheel down, and it's going to come right out of there. All right, now we're going to fix our flat. First of all, you've got your little valve cap and your press the nut. This has everything you need to fix a flat. You have an air source, tire lever to get that tire on and off, and a new tube. So when removing the tire, you always want to start away from the valve stem. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to make sure the tire is nice and loose on the rim by using my fingers to kind of work it around. So now business end of the tire lever in between the rim and the tire. You lever it up so the tire is coming off the rim, and all you have to do is slide it around. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Business end of the tire, underneath the tire, between the rim and the tire. Slide it around. So now a very important part is to make sure you remove whatever gave you your flat. Use your fingers to feel and your eyes to look for whatever gave you that flat. Always put your tube in a bag. Don't just put the tube in there with all the rest of the stuff, because chances are it'll have a hole worn into it by the time you need it. Insert your valve, and I just want a small squirt of air just to give this guy some body. So that's plenty. Those of you with mountain bikes, pay attention to the direction of the tire when you go to remount it. It's not the end of the world if you get it wrong, but definitely will affect the tire's performance. All right, so I just kind of lightly put it in there like that. Start at the valve stem. I'm going to drop the valve stem in first. And just like removing, we did one side at a time. When we install, we're going to go one side at a time. Working slowly away from the valve stem. Most tires nowadays will be easy enough to get on with your hands. If it does get tight at this point, you can use your tire lever. All right, so now we're to that last tricky part. When I added that little bit of air to give it some body, sometimes that makes it a little bit more difficult. So I'm just going to let a touch of that out. So let's pretend that this section's hard and you don't want to pinch your tube with your tire levers. So, trick to using a tire lever without pinching it. Use your fingers right at the point where you're going to insert that tire lever to make sure that the tube is up into the tire as far as it's going to be. And then you take your tire lever, and this time we're going to do it upside down like this. And we're going to insert that tire lever right next to our finger. You want to hold the side that's not, that you don't have a tool on, so you don't chase it around the whole way. And simply flip this lever up. And then rather than pulling it out and reinserting it, you're simply going to drop it down just enough that you can slide it and then leverage it back up. So drop it down, slide it, leverage it up. Drop it down, slide it, leverage it up. All right, now we've got this guy on here. All we need now is some air. The one thing you want to be careful of with CO2 is that you start to use it slowly, because it has a lot of pressure in here, and sometimes if you're not careful you can blow your tire off. Valve nut back on. Important tip, don't over tighten these. They only need to be hand tight. They're just to keep the valve stem from rattling. So once it's kind of on there lightly, then just a quarter turn. If you're cranking that thing on there, all you're doing is ripping the valve stem away from the rubber of the tube and giving yourself a flat. Getting the infamous back wheel back in there. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we took the wheel off with the chain on the small cog, so that's exactly how we're going to put it on, and it's going to make our life really easy. So rather than juggling a bunch of things, I've got the wheel on the ground here so I can roll it. Same thing with the front wheel. So I'm just going to roll my wheel up here. I can let it go, it's not going to go anywhere. So we have to get the loop of chain around the cassette. You want to get this piece of chain over that small cog, because that's where we came off. So I'm looking down and I can see straight down onto that piece of chain, and it's sitting right on that cog. And now the only thing that's keeping the bike from dropping down on the wheel is the derailleur. You can kind of see that the derailleur is in between my dropout and my axle there. So the way to fix that problem is to simply push down on the back of the derailleur, and it moves it right out of the way, and then just make sure that you're in between your brakes there, and the wheel drops right in. Now we just have to flip our quick release closed. Top 3 ways: check your pressure, Check the condition of your tires and try to avoid it if you can.